To local election clerks statewide, clarifying that open carry of firearms at polling places is prohibited.
And just intimidating conduct by folks that were voting carrying weapons.
Police department warning that polling sites are potential targets for extremist violence
Is terrifying. And certainly that has caused all of us to,
It's so people can exercise their right to vote without feeling threatened or intimidated.
Feel safe going into the polling area, and they feel safe coming out. And that's what this actually is for.
States consider arm restrictions. As the nation grapples with heightened concerns over election-related crime and intimidation, an increasing number of states are moving to implement restrictions on arms near polling sites. This response, driven by lawmakers and voting rights groups, aims to safeguard not only voters, but also election administrators and poll workers during a period of heightened political tension and polarization. Currently, only a handful of states and Washington, D.C. have comprehensive prohibitions on carrying arms, either openly or concealed, at polling places. However, in the wake of the tumultuous 2020 election, characterized by the propagation of election denialism and sporadic incidents of crime incited by former President Donald Trump and his supporters, many states are reevaluating their arm laws surrounding voting locations. While some states have addressed carrying arms at ballot drop box sites or election offices, few have implemented specific regulations. In response to mounting concerns, at least 6 states have introduced legislation in 2023 aimed at either outright banning arms at polling locations or expanding existing restrictions.
To have that open line of communication. All of the voting so far in early voting has been safe and secure nationwide.
Banning open carry at the polls. The goal is to prevent voter intimidation and keep people safe.
We just want to send the clear message that guns in polling places simply do not mix.
Feel safe going into the polling area, and they feel safe coming out. And that's what this actually is for.
Notably, New Mexico recently enacted a law that prohibits the open carry of arms within 100 feet of a polling location and 50 feet of a drop box. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham emphasized the importance of ensuring voter safety and freedom from intimidation or crime while exercising their democratic rights. Conversely, Virginia's Republican governor vetoed a similar bill, illustrating the partisan divide on this issue. While acknowledging the historical backdrop of political crime at the ballot box, such incidents have become increasingly rare in recent election cycles. However, a survey conducted by the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism revealed that 4 expressed fear for their safety at polling places, particularly concerning the potential for shootings on Election Day. The rise in harassment and threats of crime against election workers, predominantly women, coupled with instances of voter intimidation during the 2022 midterms, underscores the urgency to address these mounting concerns.
Whether their county clerks and local clerks have received threats, and some have opted not to.
This new order, in essence, seems to be using campaigning laws for guns, saying,
And sent me emails indicating that he had experienced what he felt were threats.
To local election clerks statewide, clarifying that open carry of firearms at polling places is prohibited.
Lawmakers and advocates argue that implementing restrictions on arms near voting sites is a proactive measure to maintain peace and security during elections. Jessica Oyeda, an attorney at the Giffords Law Center to Prevent Armed Crime, emphasizes that while most states already have some form of restrictions in place, the current political climate necessitates additional safeguards. Despite limited instances of arms being used to threaten voters and election workers, the pervasive fear surrounding elections underscores the need for proactive action. As the nation gears up for the 2024 election cycle, policymakers and advocates remain committed to ensuring that voters can exercise their fundamental rights without fear of intimidation or crime. By enacting targeted arm restrictions at polling sites, states aim to uphold the integrity of the electoral process and protect the democratic principles upon which the nation was founded.
Continue serving in office, and that is some of them have completely left the job.
no open carry of firearms can happen within 100 feet of a polling place.
And just intimidating conduct by folks that were voting carrying weapons.
Without question, this will be a lawsuit. You cannot disenfranchise voters.
Addressing concerns of election crime. As the nation grapples with concerns about potential crime surrounding elections, particularly exacerbated by former President Donald Trump's dissemination of conspiracy theories about the integrity of the electoral process, the debate over allowing arms at polling places has intensified. While some argue that arms contribute to voter safety, others advocate for clear restrictions, citing the risk of accidents and intimidation. Robin Sanders, counsel for the Brennan Center for Justice, emphasizes the detrimental impact of Trump's rhetoric on the perception of election integrity, creating a breeding ground for hostility and increasing the risk of violent acts during elections. Concerns about the presence of arms at polling places stem from the potential for accidental shootings, irrespective of the arm owner's perceived responsibility. Armed safety groups, including Brady United Against Armed Crime, advocate for legislation clearly restricting arms at polling places, citing Supreme Court rulings recognizing polling locations as sensitive places where such prohibitions are constitutional. Chris Brown, president of Brady United, underscores the importance of prioritizing the right to live and vote over Second Amendment rights. Legislation aimed at protecting the privacy of election workers and imposing penalties for threatening them has gained traction, alongside efforts to restrict arms at polling places.
Police Department warning that polling sites are potential targets for extremist violence.
Go to a polling place and vote, and then leave and then walk back to your home disarmed.
New Mexico's Democratic governor is facing legal challenges after issuing an emergency order banning guns in public.
Threats against election officials around the country. Some lawmakers now calling to outlaw guns at the voting booth.
Jessica Oyeda, an attorney, highlights the recognition by the highest court in the nation that arms and polling places are incompatible due to the inherent threat they pose to democratic rights. New Mexico and Virginia have recently taken steps to enact arms bans at polling locations, with New Mexico's Democratic governor signing a bill prohibiting the open carry of arms near polling places and drop boxes. Conversely, Virginia's Republican governor vetoed a similar bill. Beyond these states, Connecticut, Michigan, and Vermont have also given preliminary approval to related arms bans, reflecting a growing recognition of the need to safeguard the electoral process. One particularly notable measure in California aims to clarify that the presence of arms in and around polling locations constitutes intimidation, providing impacted individuals with a civil remedy. Voting rights groups view this legislation as a model for addressing concerns about arms at polling places and ensuring the protection of voters and election workers alike. The debate over arms at polling places underscores the broader challenge of balancing Second Amendment rights with the need to safeguard democracy and ensure the integrity of elections. As the nation confronts heightened tensions and threats surrounding electoral processes, policymakers and advocates must prioritize measures that promote voter safety and uphold the democratic principles upon which the nation was founded.
And taken with them decades of experience.
Is terrifying. And certainly that has caused all of us to,
As long as people are there peacefully carrying their firearms, they cannot be arrested.
Safeguarding voting spaces. The debate over legislation to restrict arms at polling places reflects growing concerns about voter intimidation, particularly at drop boxes, a method of voting that has faced criticism from former President Donald Trump and his supporters. Despite the lack of evidence supporting claims of fraudulence, the perpetuation of falsehoods about drop box security risks discouraging voter participation, threatening to disenfranchise individuals. While drop boxes have enhanced accessibility to voting, they have also become targets for voter intimidation, exemplified by armed individuals stationed outside ballot drop box areas in Maricopa County, Arizona, during the 2022 elections, leading to legal action by organizations like the League of Women Voters of Arizona. Rachel Ori, an associate director of the Bipartisan Policy Center, emphasizes the high risk of potential disenfranchisement in the upcoming 2024 elections, highlighting the need for measures to secure voting processes. However, opposition from Republicans, who argue that arms restrictions unfairly disarm law-abiding arm owners, poses a challenge to enacting such legislation. In Virginia, Governor Glenn Youngkin justified his veto of numerous arm restriction bills by invoking the Second Amendment and asserting his commitment to protecting the rights of Virginians to keep and bear arms. Despite these challenges, Democrats leading efforts to implement arm restrictions have pursued bipartisan compromise. In New Mexico, amendments to the bill, including exemptions for individuals with concealed carry permits and specific circumstances, garnered bipartisan support, reflecting a commitment to addressing concerns while upholding Second Amendment rights. Voting rights experts contend that laws prohibiting arms at polling places are essential to safeguarding the individuals responsible for administering elections, such as poll workers and election officials who have faced threats and intimidation.
Not going to shy away from a fight. I will make sure our elections remain safe and secure in this county.
That is to prevent intimidation and keep everyone safe. But will it really accomplish her goal?
Under current law, you can bring a firearm with you when you vote.
It's so people can exercise their right to vote without feeling threatened or intimidated.
The targeting of election officials and poll workers, including high-profile cases like Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson and poll workers Ruby Freeman and Wandrea Shea Moss, underscores the urgency of protecting those involved in the electoral process. Chris Brown emphasizes the interconnectedness of voter intimidation and the recruitment of poll workers, noting the challenges in recruiting individuals to work at polling places amid concerns about safety. Jessica Oyeda, a part-time poll worker, reflects on the uncertainty surrounding safety considerations and the impact of the governor's veto on her decision to continue serving as a poll worker. The potential for adverse outcomes underscores the importance of addressing security concerns and ensuring the safety of individuals involved in the electoral process. Overall, the debate over arms restrictions at polling places underscores the broader challenge of balancing Second Amendment rights with the need to safeguard democracy and protect voter rights. While concerns about voter intimidation and safety are paramount, finding consensus on legislation that addresses these concerns while respecting individual rights remains a complex task. As the nation prepares for future elections, policymakers must prioritize measures that promote voter safety and uphold the integrity of the electoral process. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.